if you make this kind of a game, you need to think about the cinematics. You need to think about the pacing. It's a different style of game. To pull it out of context without viscerally experiencing it, you're judging something without all the data.
Welcome back to Gamified. And it's not Sam, it's me, Chris Heatherly, filling in for Sam while he's out in Bali on assignment, no doubt watching us from a beach chair. This is the game show for gamers, where our all-star panel of pros and pundits pontificate for the all-important privilege of shameless self-promotion. And we have an all-star panel this week and a hot topic lineup. Let me introduce you to some of our guests. First, to start with some of our regulars. He managed the $100 million budget at Twitch. Now he's building Mako.ai, embedding AI that's going to change the way creators and communities operate. He's younger than me, but infinitely wiser. It is Mr. Tony V. Welcome, Tony.
It's the only time on this entire show that anyone has said he's younger than in reference to me. So thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
He's the ruler of RuneScape, the destroyer of backlogs, the co-founder of the Digital Collectors Club, the DCC. If a game exists, he played it. He's Canadian, but we don't hold him against him. It's Knock.
Hey, man, there's two of us on this panel, all right? So you can't just give me the Canadian tag. Happy to be here. Happy to see
you get the Canadian shit because I'm scared of Koji. He is the architect of interstellar battlefields called Parallel, a builder of innovative AI gaming products and an architect of business strategy, a commander of the card table, and he once fought Jared Leto in a Burger King bathroom and lived to tell the tale. It's Koji Nagata.
How's it going? I'm happy to be here. You know, Chris and I will normally, jokingly butt heads on the show, but you know that I love you because it took Peyton 3 hostings before I even deigned him with my presence. And this is your first one, and here I am, bright and early and ready to go.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And by the way, a nice haircut. I appreciate you also grooming and looking nice for the program.
Oh, thank you.
He spends his days heading BD for OpenSea, convincing companies to put real value into things you can never hold, which either makes him the future of everything or the single hardest sales drop ever. He's the only person still making money off NFTs. It's Oliver Maroney.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here, and I don't think I'm making money off of NFTs because I work at a collectibles company, and that would be dangerous territory for me. But I appreciate other people that are making money in NFTs, and thanks for having me, Chris, and excited about this.
And welcome our illustrious guests for the first time to Gamified. He was on the founding team of Disney Interactive, where he produced 90s and early 2000s classic games for Toy Story and Hercules, among others. He brought Muppets to the metaverse as the head of digital for Jim Henson. He brought Call of Duty to console for the first time, and he built a consumer robot with an AI personality named one of 2020's best inventions by Time. Now he's innovating again with web comics that you can actually play at Snack Shop. It's cool, Craig Allen.
Thank you for that awesome intro. Great to be here. Thanks for that awesome intro. Good to see everybody.
Good to see you too. I remember, by the way, when you worked on the armature for the Muppets, right? The digital armature where puppets would where the puppeteers would put their hands up inside and control the Muppets. I remember when we bought the Muppets, Michael brought us in, and somebody went in and demonstrated that with Jim Henson. It was wild.
Awesome.
Or his son, yeah. Last but certainly not least, he ran worldwide BD out of the president's office for 2 Square Enix CEOs and built their streaming subsidiary, Shinra Technologies. As CEO of Genvid, he's pioneered the games the audience actually controls with DC, Pac-Man, and The Walking Dead. And now he's innovating professional AI video production. It's Jacob Nabok.
Hey.
Welcome, Jacob.
Good to see everybody. I'm the only person who can legitimately say he was senior vice president of Shinra. So I get to have that for life.
There you go. Well, let's play Gamified. First topic, the GTA 6 leak as a consumer jihad. A group calling itself Cyber Leak dumped GTA 6 gameplay, then posted a manifesto which said publishers sell licenses and call them purchases. They ship unfinished games and call them live services. They lock content on discs and call it DLC. They kill games and keep the money. Every year, anti-consumerism tightens its grip, and every year gamers get less for what they pay. They have 3 demands: no digital pre-orders, no fake DLC, and mandatory offline mode should the game ever be shuttered. Saying words are not enough, restitution is mandatory. But they have a meme coin shell, which they say will fund their secret project. If their demands are not met, they threaten to leak more, possibly endangering the biggest game launch of all time. What's the word? I'll go around the horn. Let's start with you, Tony. What's the word?
Exciting, thrilling. Thrilling is the word.
Extortion is the word.
I was going to go with extortion as well.
They're just attention hounds, right?
My word is hilarious.
Engagement farm. It's 2 words, but I'll take both.
Well, let's start off with Koji. Why hilarious?
Because I can either laugh or cry, and I choose to laugh. Basically, we live in hell. Like this is the dystopian sort of like invisible hand of the market version of Mr. Robot, where these guys are like, they have this manifesto where like games need to be accessible to everyone and free and downloaded and blah 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 blah. But really, they're just like, also we have a meme coin. Like what this is going to turn into a rant about me being an old man. But when I was a kid, okay, computer viruses just fucked with people. These guys created this malicious software because they could. They were like, hey, let's see if we can like take down this bank or do some like heinous stuff just because, whatever. They have like either they have a belief or they just want to know if they're smart enough to be able to do it. Now, every piece of like any kind of computer, it's not even viruses anymore. They just ransom your shit, right? All they want to do is extract money out of people any way they can. And these guys are no different. They want to frame it as if they're like freedom fighters for the new world, but they're just like, oh, well, buy our digital currency. Like this is, it's incredible though. It's incredible. We did it to ourselves and we belong here and I love it. That's why I'm laughing.
Tony, you were poo-pooing our man Koji. What's your take?
Yeah, and then you got a couple of hearts for me there at the end, but at the end you really brought it back. But at the beginning, what's really important to remember here is that this is the culture, right? Like there is no one, there's zero people at Rockstar that are upset about what we're talking about right now. Maybe there might be like some fucking actuary in the legal team that is just like shitting something right now, but everyone else is just psyched about the conversation. I remember when Amazon used to leak the release date by accident in Europe once a year, right? And everyone all the Rockstar guys would send us the mean emails, and then we'd go out to drinks afterwards and be like, man, everyone talked about that for like a month, right? Like that, it's just part of the game, right? Like, and as long as there have been game releases that people care about, there have been people who want to monetize information about those releases. And I think this is actually like the most on brand way. Like if it wasn't Grand Theft Auto, I might feel differently, but like this is like the only way I can imagine $1 billion brand still being in any way like punk or what the heart of like counterculture, right? Like when Grand Theft Auto came out, it was a very counterculture game, and now it's farcical to say that, right? Like it is now the culture. And so I view this as just like an extension of, I don't think Rockstar had any part of this, but I do think it's part of the brand and the culture that they've built. Like people have been monetizing leaks around Grand Theft Auto for at least 15 years since I was at Amazon and they were doing it, right? And so I just think this is a really on-brand leak, and I fucking love it. I'm excited. I want more of it. I hope they fucking find dirty pictures of the Housers and start putting them in the game and threatening to release those. Like that's what I want.
Jacob, you said attention hounds. Do you think it's too obvious a shill?
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly about their meme coins rather than any demands. The demands are just pretending to justify it because this is a game that's going to come out in a few months. They're going to have a Netflix thing very soon. Who gives a shit if some footage comes out right now? Take-Two would never agree to anything. I would just warn you about the video here. I would not put that in there if you don't want this whole podcast off of YouTube because they've been super aggressive about that.
Craig, what do you think? Extortion? Is this what happens when the GTA generation grows up?
Again, no press is bad press, right? Is the old adage. And what I hate is the virtue signaling for press on the back of doing something bad, right? Like you lose the moral high ground here. And if it is extortion, there'll be a side channel about it, but more than likely it's a tempest in a teapot. I just think that, Rockstar is going to be a juggernaut when this thing comes out, and there's going to be leaks.
But Knock, do you think you also said extortion? Do you think that maybe they have a point about anti-consumerism?
Oh, I definitely do. Listen, I was the guy on this panel not too long ago on the side of don't kill games or stop killing games, and everybody here gave me shit for my take there. I think that there's a right way to go about sending that message, and there's a very clear extortionate and frankly bullshit way to go about trying to achieve something similar. All this has done is sort of co-opted and hijacked the messaging around stop killing games and implemented it in a very thinly veiled attempt to push a meme coin that will hopefully get some attention is what their goal is here. I think this is mostly bullshit. This is kind of like that whole Mark Gerhardt moment with Mind's Eye that we talked about a month ago on the show, where our game failed because of sabotage and I can prove it. You just need to play the next mission in the game to find out all of the things that we know about how we were sabotaged. That's exactly what this is. Go buy our meme coin. Our meme coin will fund us to hack Take-Two and Rockstar a little bit more, and we'll release some more information. I think it's bullshit. This is co-opting something that people already care about and stop killing games, attaching it to something like GTA because it is a very popular game about to launch, and then saying, hey, this meme coin will help to fund it. The only thing it's going to fund is a yacht so he can live out his fantasies of playing GTA in real life.
Though realistically, once they track and see where that came from, they'll arrest him. So
yeah, absolutely.
There's no
that's
money.
playing GTA right there, right? It's steal as much shit as you can and go to jail.
IRL GTA.
Finish him.
All right. I had to cut it off. It was too much. It was too much when they started talking about people getting arrested. It's crime season. Donald Trump is our president. No one's getting arrested. Even after the fact, no one's getting arrested for this. And certainly no one's making enough money to buy fucking yachts with meme coins right now. There's like 8 people left with liquidity, and they all live with Oliver, right? They're trading the same $50 back and forth. And so, no, my thing with this is, I can't, like, these guys, there's no way that these guys are serious. There's no way these guys woke up and we're like, we're actually going to make some money on this, right? Like, I have to believe this is the most tongue-in-cheek thing that I have. Like maybe their meme coin will rip to like $1 million market cap. Someone will make like 50 grand dumping at the top, right? And that'll be that. And in terms of like the coming after the guys who are doing this, I know this guy, and I'm certain Knock, you know him because he was a big Solana guy. Oliver might as well, but his I think his name was like Rancor or Rancid or something, but he's a German guy, and he was really big in the Solana ecosystem, and his whole NFT project was around funding something similar. He was a botter or an abuser of the Ultimate Team ecosystems, and he was able to like print Ultimate Team coins and then sell them to people on this illicit gray market for the Ultimate Team games. And his whole NFT project was based around that. He sold like $500,000 in NFTs, and he went and like built himself a little warehouse so that he could scale his Ultimate Team coin farming business. And I mean, he makes like, I was talking to him in Vegas where I got a great picture with this guy. We went and got a tattoo and a truck together, but he's making like $4 or $5 million. And I shit you not, like this was 5 years ago, and I was still good enough friends with guys at EA that like I reached out and I was like, hey, Ryan was the guy's name. I won't tell you his last name. Ryan, I personally know this guy, and I'm not going to tell you like where he is so you can, fuck with his life. But if there's any information that I can give you that like would help you shut this down or triangulate on it, like I'd be happy to provide you some information. The response I got back, and this is the guy who was like running Ultimate Team like live services, was like, no, like this doesn't really seem like it's worth our time, and like you should probably just like not talk to that guy because he's a criminal. And I was like, all right, whatever, man. But there's just like the people who are running these things at these companies don't care about these people making a couple $1 million here and there off of their businesses.
You're completely wrong. Rockstar is an incredibly litigious company.
I guess that's
not
true.
allowed.
I guess Rockstar is a lot different.
They cannot allow for precedent of this happening for the future. They will absolutely go after these people with the full extent of the law, and will try to sue them for every penny that they have. They are completely obligated to do that legally.
So you don't think Rockstar secretly is happy about the attention?
No, absolutely
no, not at all.
I think there's people. I think there's people John about being sad about it, but I don't. I would. You guys should come back in 2 months or 3 months or whatever, and we should see if these guys have been chased down by the long arm.
It's not going to be 2 or 3 months from now. Approximately 1 to 1.5 years from now, after the investigations have done and they've uncovered his VPN and what have you, he's going to be arrested, and they're going to take him to court.
No, I can't wait. I can't wait to find out.
Craig, what do you think?
Oh, I think that they have unlimited funds for litigation, and they will chase down and make an example. Absolutely.
Yep. Hey, so Oliver, you've seen an engagement form or two. Is this the greatest engagement form scheme of all time?
So what's funny about this is that from a gamer's perspective, I think this is like pretty childish and like laughable. And from a crypto meme coin, I'm gonna do something super cool here, and they think it's cool. I think yes, this is one of the better engagement farms out there, because they'll take it oh, GTA, it's the biggest thing since sliced bread, and we have our meme coin thing linked to it in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter if it's legitimate or not. I think people take this thing probably the wrong way, and so I think there's two ways to look at it. I said engagement farm just because it just is that. Like, that is exactly what we're talking about here. Any way that you can get some level of engagement to a meme coin or crypto kind of thing to make you $1 or $2 or your people around you $1 or $2, that's what it feels like to me. I think what's more interesting to me is that GTA is such a powerful brand and focus right now. And so to Jacob and Craig's point, I am very curious, like, do they go after them and how they go after them? And is this going to be public at all? Or will you hear about this, or will this be the end of that? I think there's two ways that this could be done. And so I'm very curious to see if they make an example out of this sort of thing, or if it's just like swept under the rug a month from now and nobody's talking about it and there's a reason why. So I think that will be very interesting to watch. But
so I just did some quick research. I'm sorry, I got to jump in, Oliver. I just did some quick research. Rockstar has sued exactly one person. And sorry, and got to court and got
publicly.
No, but like that's been criminally. I'm talking about criminally going to jail. And I'm only laughing because it's something similar. The guy found some leaked footage and demanded money for it, but he pled autism. He said that he was too autistic to go to jail, and so they sent him to a mental health institution. That is insane. That is the most on-brand hacker story I've ever heard.
I just think in general, though, like we're look, these things are going to get out one way or another. GTA, Rockstar are not going to like this. I'm curious how this is handled. And I think lastly, it shows something that a GTA leak has made this much of a headline across all of these different platforms. And it tells me that this game, well, everyone knows that it's obviously going to be a really big deal. But I do think if your game is leaked in this sort of form or this sort of way, you have something going for you. Like, on the positive side, there's this much around this game that people care about it this deeply. To me, that says something about where this game's going in a good way.
Is this the moment, though, where, typically these publishers ignore meme coins and kind of this non-degenerative nonsense? But is this the moment where game publishers can no longer do it? Because we're going to see this for every game, right? I mean, it's happened before. I
don't think they even talk about the meme coin, if it's even a thing. Like, they would be dumb to like even have any sort of mention of that, in my opinion.
They're profiting off of it, right? I mean, they're leaking this. I mean, they're directly. This isn't just they leaked some footage.
Yeah, but Rockstar
said that's probably bad enough, but they're making money.
Not say it though, because then that actually drives more engagement to the meme coin. They should know that. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But we do know now, at least apparently from what was reported earlier today, that they have like they will have an in-game currency, and it will be available to be cashed out, which I find interesting as well. It's not going to be meme coin related. But
guys, this is just an ARG event, and CyberLeak is the official currency of GTA.
Oh my God. Jacob, did you deal with this at Square? Did you guys have leaks at Square? Did you? How hard do you think they'll really go after this?
We certainly did. We also had crazy people who just showed up to the office threatening all sorts of weird stuff. Like, I've got many stories. But Japanese companies are not as litigious as U.S. companies, and most U.S. companies are not as incredibly strict as Take-Two. So this is just a very, very specific situation where it is the most expensive video game product ever made, with literally tens of billions of dollars of future revenue on the line. And I will say with every iota of confidence I have that they will go after it aggressively.
You think they'll go after everyone that's been sharing it, or you think they'll just go after like the ringleaders and make an example?
They will take people down, which is what they have been doing, but they will only go strongly after the leaker unless you're somebody with repeated violations of their content. Keep in mind, a couple of months from now, everything is public anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right? But they will do the takedowns right now.
Yeah. Craig, so you were at Disney. You've been at many high-profile game places with brands to protect. How would we have thought about this at the Mouse? How hard would we send the mouse out with a bat?
Again, I don't think that they would, bring a pile driver to something that can use a hammer. So, I mean, this is probably somebody that can be chased down, tracked down, and dealt with pretty quickly and silently, and probably, pretty frightened by the fact that you have a multi-billion-dollar global entity breathing down your neck that can do a lot of damage, right? So I think this is, again, like I said, it's an interesting dust up. It's a great attention grab for until it's not. And GTA this one's going to be like $1 billion product. That's a lot of zeros for a franchise that is one of the biggest in gaming. You can't let people mess with that and get away scot-free, right? So if it's a fan doing fan service, okay, maybe we look the other way. But this is not that. This is opportunistic, and we would go after them at Disney, just like they'll go after them here.
Do you guys think that that leaking the footage, or if they leak more footage, will ruin the story or diminish the desire for people to play the game, or do you think it's all marketing in the end?
It's not going to change anything.
We're in a super fan cycle with this one, right? Like, I don't know if you can oversaturate the demand that's built up.
If it was bad, if the leak was bad, like it showed really bad gameplay or really poor footage or clips of like lagging or delays or things like that, that's where I think this could get really dangerous. But it won't change anything long term. Like nobody really will care. But I do think that would short term.
Well, yeah, but I think we'd see a much different response, though, right? That is where I think like they'd have the Housers in the streets with Uzis.
I don't even agree with
right?
that. I don't even agree with that. Like a bunch of the Wolverine stuff was leaked so long ago, right? And the marketing machine's still going hard. People are still pre-ordering Wolverine. Like, I don't think people care, to be honest with you. Especially like it's different if a movie gets leaked online.
But wait, but Koji, the Wolverine stuff all looks good, right? There's none of the Wolverine stuff. No, shitty, right?
The original leaks looked pretty poor.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I've only seen the recent stuff. It looks awesome.
Yeah, no. From like it was like 2 years ago or something, or a year and a half ago.
Got it.
They look kind of poor, but like I think it's different because like this is an interactive product, right? They're not. Even if the story was leaked, people want to get their hands on it. They want to feel it. They want to play it. That's the whole point of gaming, right? Otherwise, it would just be an interactive movie. So I don't think it's going to change anything, especially with a game like this. Like people have already sort of bet their lives that this is going to be the greatest thing to ever be created. So, it will be.
So before we move to the next topic, I'm not commenting on this pod, but I'll tell you one quick story, which is to Jacob's point. When I was running Club Penguin, we had a bunch of kids hack our Star Wars party, which was one of our big events. And it took us down for like a couple days because it turned out Disney had no DDoS protection for the entire website, if you could believe that. Crazy. And so we did actually do an investigation because it turned out that they had penetrated into the Disney systems. They had used this hack to penetrate deeper into Disney. And we did do an investigation. Disney has a head of security who had been former very high up in the FBI, and had the former head of the FBI, I forget his name, George Tenet, come speak at our like company conference. And anyway, so that we did a whole investigation, and they found a group of kids, and I had dossiers on these kids with photos of them like walking outside of school like criminals for Hacking Club Penguin. It turned out they were being used as frontmen by someone who is much more malicious. They were just hacking to like get free credits or whatever. There was someone much more malicious who was using them to get into the systems. So anyway, I brought those dossiers home and I showed it to my kids who were like 10 at the time. And I was like, see little Jimmy here? Jimmy's about to get a visit from a former CIA officer. And what he's about to find out is you don't fuck around on the internet. And my kids were like, "Ooh," And so anyway, these guys show up, right? They're former FBI guys. They show up to one of these kids' houses in London, and the mother like takes off her sandal while they're talking to the son, takes off her sandal and starts hitting him with it. She's like, "I told you to get off that computer," blah, blah, starts chasing him around the house. So the lesson is, kids, don't fuck around on the internet. So related to GTA, let's go to topic 2. GTA, is it turning $100 games into the standard? The standard version of GTA costs $80, but 90% of pre-orders had been for the $100 Ultimate Edition. That includes exclusive vehicles, weapons, clothing, and exclusive customization shop and bonus story content. Online complaints have been loud, but people are buying it anyway. Is $100 too much to ask for a full game, or is it turning gamers into online grand theft? Is this just the cost of tentpole gaming in 2026? Big deal, little deal, or no deal? I'll go around the horn. Tony?
It's a big deal, but not for the reasons you think it is.
It's the Lucas of warm deals, medium deal.
Little deal, but big implications.
Proof that the willingness to pay spectrum is going to be ever more important with games going forward.
Little deal.
No deal.
No deal. All right, Jacob, I'll start with you. What's your take?
Look, I've long believed that there is a much wider willingness to pay band than has existed in games up until now, and we haven't seen that because everything's been tied down to a $70 price point for the most part, and $60 before that. I think that there are plenty of people who would be willing to pay more, and we haven't monetized them appropriately, and this is the start of that. I think that there are also plenty of people who would pay less and wait. And so we're going to see just way more price variability as we move into digital, which is a lot of the flack I got for saying that on Twitter last week, and I'm simply repeating it here.
Yeah, so why don't you talk just a little bit about what you said on Twitter, what the flack was, and what your reaction to it is?
Look, I believe as we move toward much more digital ecosystems and we're not tied down to fixed price points, you're going to see publishers compete with each other to sometimes price their games at $40, $50, $60, as opposed to everybody being at the $70 price point. Because the amount of content that is being released on an annual basis is substantially more than when many of us started this industry. And when you have content competition, you are going to see people pull every lever to try to increase audience. Realistically speaking, there are only 3 levers you can pull as a publisher in traditional fixed price premium goods to get people to come to your content. One is the date, the other one is the price, and the third one is any kind of additional incentives, pre-order bonuses, exclusives that you can get people to come and purchase your content for. And they've been trying to do the last one for the last decade or so, going back to horse armor. Dates are increasingly more difficult the more that you've got, titles coming out. The release calendars when we were trying to, date Hitman Absolution back in 2012, it was already a difficult release calendar in the fall because everybody wants to be there in the fall. It's even worse now. And now you're competing with Grand Theft Auto. What do you do? And so the only thing that you have left is price. And so if you can undercut people by $10, $15, increase your sales, you will do it.
Tony, you said it's a big deal, but not for the reasons people said, and you were giving positive emojis with Jacob were talking there. So what say you?
Yeah, I gave him a little mic drop. I agree with everything that Jacob said. I think that some of the motivations are different, and some of the outcomes are going to look a little different than what Jacob was talking about. I think that we are entering I think we are accelerating through the age of the creator into the golden age of the creator, where because everyone is starting to create things, people are now developing more empathy towards those who make things. We're seeing more and more talk from, as AI becomes more and more of a thing on the forefront. There's a lot more concern about how the people who are making the things we love make their money. And so the zeitgeist and the conversation around where the money goes when people make it is changing dramatically. And so I don't think that is going to change for Microsoft. I don't think it's going to change for Rockstar, Take-Two, right? I think that they're going to get into the houses are going to continue to hoover up as much money as they can into the housers' pockets. However, I look at people like Nigel over at Devolver Digital, people running 5-6-man shops that are making, 10, 15, 20, $100 million a year as they grow their business. Those are the kind of people that I believe in my heart of hearts are going to be able to do really interesting things with the type of price variability that you're talking about, such as have like publisher bonus games, right? Where like they publish a game and the marketing vehicle for the game is because you're part of the new era of gamers who are not scumbags and you care about the people that are making the games that you love. 80% of all of the profit from this game is going to go directly. We're going to split it up directly between everyone at the studio, except for the execs who make more than $200,000 a year, whatever the fuck, however you come up with that. But I believe models like that are going to emerge. I think Humble Bundle, pay what you want and donate it to charity, was like decades before its time, and that this current generation and beyond are the ones that actually want that shit. Humble Bundle was interesting for our generation, not because you were able to give money to charity, but because you were able to get games for the amount for whatever you want to pay for, and like the charity thing just happened to be there. I think my nieces, my nephews, and my kids actually value the charity part. And to your point, there's so much content coming out right now that there's just going to be more room for these kind of models. And so I think that's why I get excited about it. I think that 5 years from now, Nigel's going to launch a game for $100 and going to say that all of it's going to go to the people who don't make $100,000 a year.
Finish him.
I had to jump in there, not because I disagree with Tony, but I love it so fucking much that we're talking about charity and like interesting models of like building studios and monetization, because we're like a company's now charging $100 instead of $80 for a game. This is fucking crazy. Like, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying, but like the idea that like, yeah, these guys are just going to make more money for the same shit. So like, obviously that's going to trickle down to the people who work there. And then, we're going to give the money to the studio workers and not the execs. And what are we talking about, man? Like, I think that things are going to get so priced out that these new models are going to have to happen. But we're talking about like a bunch of pain before we get there, and this is the beginning of the pain. Like this is just greed. We live in a world where it's just like, because people will pay more for something, we should charge more for it. That's like, we do live in hell, guys. We do live in hell.
It's not hell. That's the way that it's pretty much always been.
It's always been this way. There's not many businesses that operate.
That is true.
That's not true.
That's how it worked with trading back before there was money.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? Okay, like, and I'll say this, like, as somebody of Japanese descent, right? Like, for a long time, their products were sold. I mean, it's different now, but for a long time, the products were sold for what they cost with some margin. It wasn't like the maximum people were willing to pay. It was like, this is an appropriate cost for these things, and that even included collectibles. Like, I used to go there and see, at the time when people were buying like Chrono Trigger on SNES here for like $400, you could buy a copy there for $50, $75, right? And it's because it was just like, this is the appropriate amount of money for this thing, as opposed to we should just inflate the price to whatever the fuck people are willing to pay for it. And I know that's idealistic, but like, it's also idealistic to be like, hey, Rockstar is going to charge $100 for GTA, so the entire games industry is going to be revolutionized because of it. Like, that's insane.
But Jacob, it cost like $1 billion to make this game, right?
I believe that estimates are about 2 to 2.5 billion in terms of the total over the last decade plus that it's been in development.
Holy wow!
This has been happen. This has happened forever though. This isn't new. Like $100 pre-orders. I I've spent $100 on my Call of Duty pre-order, I don't know, a handful of times. Like, you buy it with the battle pass, and you buy it with the skins, and you buy it with this goes on with NBA 2K, it goes on with FIFA Ultimate Team or EAFC. Like, all of these games have been doing this for years. This is not new. And to be honest, if you're asking for what value you get out of it, you get very little for like an NBA 2K reskin compared to this. At least this has been in development for 10 years and we've got $2 billion baked into it. You can at least justify the reason why it's $100. So I don't know. To me, I put a no deal because people have been doing this for a long time. Like, a lot of these games are $100 if you want all the stuff. And they make it very clear and obvious that the $60 version sucks in comparison to the $100 version. Like, it's like, for any average consumer, you're looking at it, you're like, I could get the game for 60, but man, if I pay 100, I could get access early, and I can get skins, and I can get the battle pass for 3 seasons in a row. That's $20 each season. Like, they make it so it's value additive, and for consumers, it's an easy sell. To be honest with you, I would love to know the COD numbers. I would love to know some of the EAFC numbers. I bet you it's not 90%. But it's probably pretty damn close to that number. It's got to be. And just the way that they sell this to consumers is already out there. So to me, no deal. People are doing this anyways. Hopefully, people feel like they got more value out of this, and maybe that changes the way the games industry works from like how long a game can be in development for. But that's me thinking very optimistically and pie in the sky. And Tony, to your point, preach to the choir, man. If we had a bunch of, I don't know, there's not many businesses ran like In-N-Out Burger today, I guess is the example I would use. Like, In-N-Out Burger has had the same pricing for their burgers for years. They pay their employees very well. They pay their managers well. I don't see many companies operating that way, unfortunately. And so, I don't know. That's pie in the sky as well.
So I'm going to go to Craig and then to Knock. Craig, you had a great reality check in the comments. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that we also look at the price point as something that we grew up with and was kind of set under game industry convention. But when you look at like inflation adjustment pricing, a $59 game in 2013, that's roughly $86 today, right? We're on an inflation curve and it's going to get worse. And the $100 barrier, it's psychological, but I also think it's fan extraction. And that's why I think it's not a big deal, because in terms of the value that you're paying for, you're getting huge value. I mean, people are going to play this game for a year, right? For $100. It's like a year subscription to Netflix for this kind of game that people are going to go deep in. And they're not going to buy 3 other games, which is why we saw the whole game industry shuffle its distribution release slate to try to avoid the shadow of GTA that just kept moving as the game pushed out, because it's gotta work, right? But I think what's more interesting, and why I think it's a better thing to think about in terms of our industry, is that we still have a product mindset. Oh, this is a release. This is a product. It's an ecosystem. And this is fan extraction. You're a hyper fan. You're a super fan. We want to give you more value, more service. And yes, we want more money. But at the end of the day, it's not an industry move, because if I have Crash Bandicoot 47, that's kind of a fun little game, do I justify $100 for that fan group? Probably not. So again, I think this is an outlier, but I think it's interesting to think about gamers not as a single group, but as an ecosystem across the spectrum. And some of them are going to pay a ridiculous premium.
All right. Oliver, I saw you would have tagged back in, but I have to go to Knock.
I know you have to go to
Knock. Wood over there to get in. Have at it, brother.
We're missing like a big portion of what this topic is. First of all, Lamborghini announced the Urus a few years ago at like $240,000. I'm still waiting for my fucking RAV4 to reach $240,000 as well. Just because it SUVs in the market at that price does not mean the entire SUV market is moving to that price hold. GTA is, to Craig's point, not Crash Bandicoot. People are not going to charge $100 because GTA did. I think you're going to see a lot of teams attempt to do that and fail miserably and then blame consumers, like we have seen pretty frequently over the course of the last year when something goes belly up. Mind's Eye is a guy that I like to continue to bring up. But more importantly, the metric brought up in the topic is 89% of purchasers are purchasing the $100 tier. There is not a fucking chance that that number remains anywhere remotely close to 89% as the game gets closer to release and more people begin with the pre-release. Anybody who buys a concert ticket 6 months in advance are a super fan. They're going to buy the best version of that ticket they can. They're going to mark it down on their calendar. They're going to plan a whole day around the trip to whatever city that band is going into, and they're going to love every minute of it. Most people will buy the ticket that night on the way to the show.
No, stop with this. This is the new age. Taylor Swift fans are buying the tickets early, and they're actually reselling those tickets to other people at 10x the price. This is different.
It's not different. And the reason why it's not different is because the average top tier pre-order buy on a game is somewhere between 10 and like 25% if it's an incredible number. The idea that 90 days out from launch, 90% of all buyers buying the top bundle is indicative of what that number is going to look like at launch is absurd. Is it going to be higher than industry average? Absolutely. I think that number, Oliver, probably ends up somewhere between 35 and 40% of all pre-sale buyers or pre-order buyers will buy that top package. But the idea that 9 out of 10 people are buying the top package and that will continue over the course of the 90 days, it would be truly, truly unprecedented. Not to say that it's not possible, but it's highly unlikely. And I don't think it's indicative of what's actually going to happen. Also, how many people on this panel have pre-ordered GTA? Oh, nobody. And how many of you plan to at some point play the game?
Hold on. Okay. Yeah,
okay,
cool.
Everybody, right? So even just the math here within this group.
I was shaking my head. No, there's no way I'm playing this game. But anyway, go
The
ahead.
point is, yes, GTA is going to break records from a revenue perspective. Yes, they're probably going to have a ridiculous number of pre-sale buyers purchasing the top package relative to other titles within the space. Is 9 of every 10 buyers going to buy the most expensive version of the game? Absolutely not. Not even remotely close.
No, I don't buy that. This is a different game, first of all. Second of all, people who are buying games today and the packages that come along with them care about this stuff more than ever. They are lazier than ever. They are not like, you cannot convince me enough. If $20 extra is going to get me 5 hours in game time ahead of other people, I am spending that $20, and people are inherently thinking like that. I just don't buy that. One thing I will say, though, to Craig's point around the value of the $100 or $80 or whatever the heck the game is, just amortize out the $100 and divide it by how many hours you play that game. The entertainment value is so good. It is better than any movie, any entertainment form that you could possibly spend your money on for the hours that you're going to spend with this. No, I don't live in a no. Okay. Anyways, my point being is that this is going to end up being pennies per hour for a lot of people that buy this game. Maybe it's like tens of cents. But if you think about entertainment value across the board, I spend $20 to go to a movie for 2 hours, and that's not including concessions and other things. I go to a concert, I spend hundreds of dollars or whatever the case may be. That's a couple of hours of my entertainment. There is no better bang for your buck than this potential game for a lot of people out there. And so I think that is where people are going to spend, again, the extra $20 and see that value back.
He's right, guys, according to the internet. He's not full of shit. I just Googled it because I thought he was full of shit. I thought I was going to get to shut the fuck up and dunk on him. And God damn it, I'm wrong. According to some group that probably made a whole lot of money to do this research, the data intelligence firm Sensor Tower shows that an incredible 89% of all GTA 6 pre-orders are for the $100 Ultimate Edition.
Tony, let me break something down for you. That's in the name of the question, brother. That was in the question, my man.
I thought you were going to say 89% of like EAFC purchasers bought the $100 pack. And then I was like, hey, let's go, Tony. And then you said that, and I'm like, I'm so confused.
Some people read the topics ahead of time, others don't. Craig, you want to close this out?
I don't even need to read it ahead of time. It's on the freaking screen.
I just think it's going to be really great when we get down to the ad-supported Rockstar Plus network tier, and we're able to just enjoy this all for free, because then we'll be able to bring in those other 5 billion people that don't pay any money for anything.
Here's the real kicker. This is going to piss everybody off, but I think GTA says, let's start doing battle passes. Let's start doing online subscriptions. Let's start monetizing the hell out of this. when it gets so big that people decide it's worth it to squeeze the extra $10 a month out of people. So that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for 6 months down the road when online or whatever comes out and people are just getting milked even more than we're discussing right now.
Okay, topic number 3. AI wrote the NPCs. The CEO wrote the crisis. Former lead writer Stella Sacco says Saber Interactive removed her from Rideshare Simulator so that ChatGPT could write the remaining content. Saber denies this, denies replacing her with AI. The company says humans wrote the campaign, while an experimental free ride mode uses AI-generated passengers because the number of potential passengers is effectively infinite. The game's Steam page initially lacked AI disclosure, which Saber subsequently added. Saber CEO Matthew Karch responded and said, I would frankly, in retrospect, have been happy to replace her with AI. At least we would be dealing with someone programmed to be honest. Her response, Sacco said, by her account, she argued Karch attacked her because Saber did not want its AI usage disclosed and called this statement inappropriate and said it would damage Saber's reputation. And Karch later apologized to her privately. What's the word, Jacob?
So what do we want to tackle with this topic? Is it the AI component to begin with, or is it the response from the CEO? Because the response from the CEO.
How should CEOs handle this type of public, let's say, usage of social media to take jabs?
So the issue that I have with this overall is the idea that you can get punched up, but you're not allowed to say anything back seems to be kind of a problematic way of looking at things, which is to say the idea that the CEO should not respond with anything other than a strict company line is kind of going into a framing of the discussion where you have workers and you have bosses, which is to say you have management and labor. That is a very political lens at looking all of this, instead of looking at it from the perspective of how should the CEO address a marketing topic with regard to his content. And so the reason I position it this way is I believe that the CEO should be free to address the topic at hand, which is there AI in the game or not? Did they make a mistake with the filing or not? I disagree with the idea that the CEO should never be able to respond and or should not be able to punch back at accusations that are false. Though in this case, the accusation was true, which is kind of what poisons a whole bunch of the conversation.
Knock, our resident conscience, what say you?
I mean, first of all, hilarious response by the CEO. I think if you're looking at this objectively, regardless of your takes on whether or not he should have said it, pretty fucking funny to say that out loud. Terrible idea. Not the way that you handle this sort of thing, especially when the allegation is true and correct. I think you are free, like Koji says this all the time, you are free to say whatever it is that you want to say, but you are not free from the consequences of those words. And the consequence here is a much bigger situation that has unfolded versus if he had just taken the hit, rolled with the punches, and said, yep, she said what she said, and that's all we're going to say about it, right? I think the idea that you have to clap back to every sort of perceived injustice against you or your company is objectively just a really stupid belief to have and gets more people in trouble more often than not. In this case, you leveraged AI for a perfectly valid reason. I think talking about generative passengers in a game like this, where you're literally going to have an infinite number of scenarios, it would be absurd to assume that you need a real writer to sit there and write 4 million lines of dialogue with these NPCs that would walk into the cab. But I also think that lying about the use of AI, lying about why you fired somebody, and then saying that to that person publicly while the public is already on her side is just asking for your company to like catch all kinds of shit that they probably wouldn't have caught otherwise if you had just shut your mouth and released the game. I think this is stupidity all around. You leveraged AI in a way that they probably should have. It's a real use case for game development. I think it's the exact type of scenario in which you should leverage AI, and the CEO should have shut up.
Koji, you were name dropped there. Do you agree with being referenced with the comments you were referenced in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was basically going to say the same thing. It's just like this is free speech. It's just a consequence, right? Like, Jacob, you said that people should be allowed to punch down. He's allowed, but the consequence of doing it is people are going to shit on you. Like that's just what's going to happen. And so I think that's what we see happening here. And part of the issue also is that like as a CEO, one thinks that this guy is representing not just himself, but the company as a whole. And so you kind of want somebody who's going to respond with that in mind, as opposed to this is what I personally think. And I know that we live in a social media era now, and so the lines are a little bit blurred between my personal thoughts and my company's thoughts and whatever, but like it's pretty hard to escape when you're the CEO. And so, I think there's some responsibility there on his part to make sure that he's representing the company accordingly. The one thing I will say though is like, I don't, as someone who is clearly a socialist leaning or whatever based on previous topics, right? Like I'm not afraid to say that like, I think this is an appropriate use of AI in gaming. And like, I don't necessarily know that the company did anything wrong in what they did. And I think that if he had just said, hey, this is the reason why we did it, and I don't think we did anything wrong, it would have been fine. The wrongdoing was the tone of the response. This is like my kid coming home and telling me, well, this kid in my class hit me first. I'm like, okay, well, you should know better, right? And
the whole of the conversation is complicated by the fact that he was wrong. Right.
I agree with you there. Yeah, 100%. He was wrong. But like, even if he was right, I still think the response is inappropriate.
Well, I actually think the qualifier of the response being inappropriate is that he was fucking wrong, right? Like, if he just said correct to the allegations, we're not talking about this. Nobody's talking about this. Hey, they fired me because they wanted to use AI for their product and they didn't want me to write all the lines. And if he came out and said, that's accurate. All right, story's over, right? Full stop.
You hit my point very well.
But I think that, but I don't think that's equivalent, right? I think the equivalent would have been like correct, and I'm glad that you're gone because you suck, right? Basically, it's not just correct; it's like correct, and also I hate you, and I think that's the problem.
Jacob, what were you going to say?
I was just pointing out that he accurately made my point, which was. Yes, if you was simply you were correct, then there wouldn't have been a conversation here. Now, I do agree with Koji's point that there is an issue here where he just went to shit on a person without justification, and I'm not supporting that. So I want to be clear. I said punch back. I never necessarily punched down. It is different between those two things. My issue is with the framing where it's up and above. My point is it needs to be like this, right?
Craig, CEO-like behavior or un-CEO-like, what say you?
I'm in the CEO is the custodian of the brand, the value, the vision, the culture. So if this is the culture that is wanting to be espoused, awesome. It's on message, it's on brand. If it's counter to the desires of the organization of the company, then that's a failing of the CEO to read the room and know what to say. I think it's an interesting use case for AI. I think that's much more of an interesting part of the conversation because it's not about cheaper writing in this case. It's about writing that can meet a player on their own terms with infinite scale. That is a much more exciting topic, and that it's all bundled in with, did the guy say the right thing in the right way at the right time as the right, representative of the company? I think it's unfortunate or really good asymmetrical PR.
Do any of you guys know Matthew Karch? Because I do.
Yeah.
You do.
When I haven't talked to him for many years, but
but this is on brand for Karch.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is a rock star, right? I mean, he's a rock and roll guy. He bought when he sold to Embracer. He bought he went around the country on a private jet buying like guitars. Like he can be a prickly guy, but he's I think I love him. I think he's a badass. I mean, but it's very on brand for Karch. If you don't know Karch, it's not on brand, right? And I think that's what's shocking to people is they hear CEO. But, you know, there was a time where being a Rockstar CEO was, you know, like that's what that those of us who are Gen X, that's what it was, right? Tony, what say you?
Well, I agree with, again, like half of what you said there, right? Because like you don't get to be, you're not a rock star CEO anymore. You're not a punk rock star living on the edge counterculture CEO if you made $748 million last year, right? You're a fucking rich dude who's talking down to all of the not rich people on the fucking planet. Right, like that's the difference. I think Vlambeer, right, the Dutch asshole who made $1.5 million off of his indie game about, you know, shooting stars into one another. If someone talks shit to him on the internet and he takes it personally and he wants to be like, "Fuck you, you're a dickhead," that's okay because that guy is poor like the rest of us. But I think when you talk about like the appropriate brand to have for your, you know, for your business, I think it's really, again, on a spectrum. It's situational, right? Like if you are a scrappy, up and coming, like I've been bootstrapping my thing for the last 2 years. I finally launched it. I made $1 million. I'm fucking stoked. And someone comes and says, "Oh, this asshole fired me because like he wanted to use AI and like I'm going to try to fuck up his business." I think personally, like, great. You should jump in with both feet and be like, "Fuck you. I'm running a small business. I needed to use AI. You're an asshole." If you're the hundreds of millionaire, like maybe don't fire her, right? Like maybe be like, "Hey, we're going to use this AI and I want you to be a consultant on how we make it great." And like, even if consultants in air quotes and you don't do anything, like that's where I think it is the actual action of what happened is actually the important thing here. His handling of it was, again, I think kind of representative of the reason that it happened, though, right? Like I think, again, if I'm using Vlambeer as the example, or me as the example, starting a new business, Knock as an example, starting a business. Koji, I don't know how you run Parallel. It seems like you might be a little capitalistic over there. But I think that increasingly the generations of people starting businesses now are looking for their brand to be about how we leverage new technology and keep the people who built our businesses around and enjoying that success with us. And again, I can selfishly say that as someone who won't be in that position for a long time because I'm not a hundreds of millionaire. But if I were, I like to think that future hundreds of millionaire Tony is keeping this woman around, unless she's a crazy person that makes working with her terrible. But barring that, I'm keeping her around for whatever $150,000, $200,000 a year she was making and letting her fucking run the AI team and make it better.
And for the record, I've fist fought Rami Esmail many times and will do it again and have no problem doing so.
Oh, I love that.
Jacob, you made when we talked before the show, though, you had a point about game journalists and sort of how they fan the flames of this stuff, of the class warfare. What's your thought there?
Look, we've seen a hollowing out of the text-based games journalism ecosystem. In some cases, it's not their fault, which is to say many of these websites were bought by larger firms, whether it was private equity or other firms. They were merged together. They were smushed together. None of those things worked out. They all basically went bankrupt or got sold for pennies. And a lot of the dollars that were there, which were previously advertising based, went toward YouTube content, influencer content, Twitch content, because it's more entertaining and it's easier and it's faster, and X content. So as a result, there is very little money in that ecosystem. So the people who do it for the pennies that they get for those jobs, they're doing it a lot of times out of a particular passion, have decided that their journalism is their activism, which is the reason they're willing to take so low salaries. And I think that is a problematic kind of thing, which is to say, I understand why YouTubers and I understand why influencers have decided that outrage bait is kind of the way in which they will make their living. But I had long expected text-based journalism to be a much more neutral kind of perspective. And I think it's a bit of a shame that there are very few websites that are dedicated to not inserting political views into every single article that they put out there. And I am pointing at Eurogamer, PC Gamer, Kotaku, and a couple others. By the way, I read them all. Most of the journalists I have absolutely no issue with. I just wish that they were much more neutral and game focused than trying to be activist in their perspective. Tony,
I'll give you the last word. You have to unmute to have the last word, Tony.
Classic Tony.
God damn, I clicked the buzz button and not the unmute button. Happens every time, boys. No, I appreciate the last word here. So I agree with a bunch of what Jacob just said, but Craig said something in the chat that I like. Press became less about narrative and more about attention and getting headlines, and I jokingly said as God intended. But I really do. I think that like put aces in their places is a real thing here, right? Like I question the need for a Kotaku. I question the need for an outlet that considers itself a quote unquote games journalism outlet. Like games are about entertainment. Like I struggle to, maybe Koji, you're a movie guy, so like maybe I'm just full of shit here, but like I don't know what the website is that I would go about to like learn about the news of what's going on in the movie industry, right? Like that's TMZ. That's like culture. That's like what's not just going on in the movie industry, but it's what's going on in the world, right? And I think that games are at the point in culture now where like those journalists should just be covering the things going on in games, and quote unquote journalists in gaming should be focused on what you were just talking about. Influencers are focused on like this thing is fun, this thing is not fun. This, you know, the graphics are good in this thing. The CEO slept with his assistant and that's fucked up. Like I think that's probably the line, right? And everything about like there's gay people in your game, or there shouldn't be trans people in your game, or there, you know, shouldn't have a capitalistic message in your game. Fuck all that. Like let TMZ deal with that. And Kotaku and Eurogamer and all of those people should be focused on pixels and fun. That's my humble opinion on the need for journalism in gaming in general.
I agree with you.
Dean Takahashi heard you and he's crying.
I know. And I love Dean. I love, by the way, the only journalist I actually know, and I love him. And
we love you, Dean.
Yeah.
Dean is great. There are a lot of really fantastic game journalists out there, both on the news side and on the opinion side. Gene Park, wonderful. Stephen Totillo, fantastic. Dean Takahashi remains incredible. And I think that Jason Schreier does a very good job, actually, and Cecilia also at Bloomberg, in trying to cover standard business news. And by the way, I don't even have an issue with many of the people who write at Kotaku specifically either. I mean, Zach and some of the others, Ethan, they are nice people. I interact with them on Twitter on a regular basis, even if I disagree with them. I can have disagreements over topics and still have friendly banter. I just feel like as a fan of these, I would prefer to have much more neutral takes. If I wanted opinions on culture wars and other things, I would go to X or YouTube.
Is Wolverine's healing factor a match for X's adamantium claws? Signal or noise? Insomniac's long-awaited Wolverine just had its preview embargo lifted. Hands-on impressions were mostly positive, but when clips hit X, the game became the internet's preferred punching bag. Sentinel boss fights were compared to a cheap Ben 10 kids game from 2007. Gamers joked to just hold up the stick to easily speed run through the game without damage, and fans groused that the game is linear instead of open world and lacked enough gore. Insomniac community director James Stevenson called the wave a relentless onslaught amplified by the algorithm and not representative actual sentiment. The claws are out for Wolverine, but our own Colin Neese pours water on the hate, noting that it's tracking 2.3 times ahead of Miles Morales at this point pre-launch, which went on to sell 10 million units. Is Wolverine's healing factor a match for X's adamantium claws, or must every game go through this hate cycle? What say you, Tony?
Okay, they're absurd. Absurd is what I'll say. Like people are still buying God of War. We just had like a couple episodes ago. We were talking about how like people shouldn't be drifting away from the fucking core of God of War to add the woman or whatever. This is that sentiment, right? Like when I'm playing Wolverine, I don't want a tight experience where like I'm landing skill shots. Like Wolverine is he's a monster. He's a beast. They named him after a fucking animal, right? And so like I want to again, like Kratos in God of War, I want to press X and I want Wolverine / Kratos to jump off a wall, pull someone's head off, put his spikes through that disembodied head, jam it into another person, pull their heart out, and then kill another person before I hit Y. And then when I hit Y, I want something even crazier to happen. I want the blood to pour from the heavens as acid, because Wolverine's also an acid creature, and melt everything around me. And then when I hit triangle, I want something even crazier to happen, right? Like that is the purpose of these games. This is not... like, again, it's not Ninja Gaiden. It's not, I'm trying to think, like, it's not a Souls game. The whole purpose of, and it seems like in even the feedback that you just read off, there are like incredible contradictions with one another, or right? Like, is it too easy? Are you holding the button down the whole time? And is it not gory enough? And it's not, it's not straightforward and in your face enough, right? Like, those two things are in tension with one another. I don't want to be thinking about the buttons I'm pressing as I'm being rained, as blood is raining down on me. I want to press the button and I want the blood to come out. That's what I want.
Craig, you dropped the mic. What say you?
I think this is a classic, a spark looks like a forest fire under a microscope. We are amplifying, the extreme positions without actually being able to play the game. And if you make this kind of a game, you need to think about the cinematics. You need to think about the pacing, everything that Tony just said about God of War. It's a different style of game. And I think that to pull it out of context without viscerally experiencing it, you're judging something without all the data.
Do you guys think that this kind of single player game, there's a generational divide on this type of game? I don't know, Knock. You buzzed in. What's your thought?
Yeah, first of all, I'm thinking about how Tony's playing this game on both Xbox and PlayStation. He mentioned X, Y, and triangle. So he's got two different fucking controllers in his hand while he's giving this to go. But I will say I agree with a lot of the sentiment. I mean, like, look, first of all, it's very apparent to me that plenty of people don't know what a Wolverine actually is. It's the most terrifying animal on the planet, and he's meant to embody that personality. First, this game looks good. It doesn't look bad. I watched the clip from 2013 that people were comparing it to. If you honestly believe it looks the same, you're being disingenuous. Like, in 2013, it very much looked like a game from 10, 15 years ago. It was a lot choppier. This game looks smoother. Sure, there's not many skill shots. Sure, there's not as much polish onto the fight scenes, but it's Wolverine, man. This sequence that plays after this clip here on the screen, where he grabs the body and Sabretooth attacks Wolverine and he's using him as a, basically a human shield, is exactly the experience that I want to see when I'm playing a Wolverine game. I think people will have a blast with this when they get their hands on it. But at the same time, it's kind of like Doom, right? We talked about Doom Eternal when that came out. People are like, oh, the game's not polished. The story's not great. I don't like the gunplay. It's Doom. You're supposed to run through hordes of demons. That's the object of the game. It shouldn't be this super polished product. I think it looks good. I think this is, people like to complain about basically everything. Is it a world beater? Is it a generational game? Are we going to be talking about this in 15, 20 years? Probably not. Are you going to have 20, 30 hours worth of fun in this game? I think the answer to that is probably yes, much like Doom Eternal earlier this year, or I guess that would have been last year at this point. But to me, this is a play it for 20 hours, have a bunch of fun killing things and blowing shit up, and then forget about the game. I don't think it's as deep as people are trying to make this.
But Jacob, getting me on the online controversy, what do you think of this issue of kind of open world versus single player? Is there a disconnect between segments of the audience here where you can't please either?
I've bought the previous Spider-Man titles. I really enjoy swinging around New York City. Of course, I live in New York City, and if I look out my window, it's 52nd and 8th Avenue right here. But I'm not that interested in this. I don't really enjoy level-based hack and slash, but I recognize that that's personal to me, right? Like, just because I'm not interested in it doesn't mean that others may not be interested in it. I'm not sure that that's worthy of a controversy at all. I think studios should be absolutely fine to, make decisions on how they want to build their content differently from game to game. Ratchet and Clank is not the same game as Spider-Man either. I think the bigger issue that I've got is the discussions happening around the game, while there are legitimate issues with maybe gameplay that they don't like, seem to not be actually relevant to the game and are more about larger influencer exacerbated topics on past Insomniac titles. And when James had a reply from someone that said, why don't you try making a good game? And he posted a screenshot of all of the Metacritic, very high positive games. I screenshotted that, tweeted it. I have 85,000 views of people yelling at me saying, that's not good game. I'm sorry, but critical reviews were fantastic for the previous Insomniac games. User reviews for them were fantastic and were basically at the same level. Sales were fantastic. There are only 3 objective measures of what good is, and their games hit all 3 of them. So anything else is just a subjective point of view. It's fine for you to disagree that a game is good, but that is not a correct overall take on their past work.
Koji, what say you? Should the CEO of Insomniac called the negative reviewers retarded?
Well, I would never advocate anything like that. But one thing I will, one thing I'll definitely advocate for is like, what the fuck are we talking about? This is X. The topic is like, oh, people on X don't like something. Huge shocker that there are people on what was Twitter, now X, being like, oh, guess what? This thing that you think you like sucks. And that's because they're incentivized to rage bait people into looking at their content and engaging with their fucking nonsense. People are allowed to hate whatever they want. And, you know, am I going to buy this game? Probably not. But I wasn't buying the Spider-Man games either. But I think those games are great. And I think that this game is also going to find an audience, right? It's kind of like, it's an MCU game. It's like an MCU movie, right? Like, I'm not rushing out to the theater to see the latest and greatest in the MCU universe necessarily, but like, there's an audience for it, and this game has its audience, and people will enjoy it. And for anyone to like look at this stuff and be like, it stinks, that's just X being X, because they fucking stink, you know. And that's all it is. It's just a bunch of rage baiters trying to like pull in a conversation. I can't think of a time in which something was posted on X and people were universally like, yeah, this is great. I can't wait for it. Even GTA.
AI just solved cancer. So, you know, that's happening.
Yeah. And people on X will be like, fuck, I wish this guy died of cancer now that it's fucking cured. You know, like this is the world we live in.
Jacob, you buzzed in?
I agree that I believe a lot of the sentiment here is driven purely to have a 24-hour rage bait cycle. The one caveat that I would give is that it is important as a game developer to be reading feedback and making changes to it. I think that there have been a lot of mistakes from game developers where they had team or agenda-driven development cycles around their content and did not actually build for audiences that were going to be their player bases. And I credit some of what I see in social media, though I often think that it goes too far, for trying to curb some of the worst takes on this. And Chris, I know that you have a lot of strong opinions of this as well. I tend to agree with a number of those opinions, but I agree from a very neutral perspective, which is to say, I'm not a culture warrior. I don't try to go in one way or the other. I've built titles with a very diverse set of characters. I've built titles for one set of audiences versus another set of audiences. But I do think that sometimes as developers, we don't want to listen to feedback from our audiences, and we try to build for what we personally want a product to be. And we should not be surprised if we cannot find an audience as a result of that.
So that kind of leads us into our next topic and our final topic, which is the midlife crisis for middle-aged gamers. So this is one I found and I thought very interesting. Was very interesting. The so-called godfather of PlayStation podcasting, Colin Martiotti, dropped a blunt thesis. Longtime core gamers are unusually angry because fans seem unusually upset this generation. And I think my simple thesis explains it. The ecosystem no longer runs through us. It hasn't for 2 generations, meaning console generations. The numbers speak for themselves. Signal and Noise podcaster Mark Libretto sharpened that point even further, saying, we are witnessing a collective midlife crisis among gamers 30 and above. Younger players largely don't care about physical discs, long-dormant franchises, or the prestige single-player exclusives that defined the PS3, PS4 era. They want COD, Madden, Fortnite, etc. What do you say? Middle-aged gamers, are we buying or selling? Tony?
I'm buying all day.
Yeah, I'll buy.
Buy.
When we say buy, like buying that this is a midlife crisis?
Buying that middle-aged gamers is a demographic.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm square in the middle. So, yeah.
You're square in the middle. Okay, so if you're square in the middle, why don't you start off?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the guy saying they don't make them like they used to anymore, and everything they make now is shit, right? But like, I know that I'm wrong. I know that I'm just an old man yelling at the clouds, right? Like, just because I don't like it doesn't make it bad, right? It just means that it's not for me. And I say this to my wife all the time when it comes to my kid stuff, and it's not just about gaming. When my wife's like, "Oh, that cartoon our kid watches is like ridiculous, and I don't like it," I'm like, yeah, it's a kid's cartoon. It's not for you, right? These games aren't for me anymore. So I think that, middle-aged gamers and the crisis is very real, right? Like we were just talking about Wolverine and the single-player aspect of it, and whether or not that's a generational thing. I think it might be. Like, I think especially in a world post-COVID where people are spending most of their time online and feel like they're sort of not getting close to anybody anymore. They want those social experiences, and they search for them in things like gaming, whether it be Among Us or whatever the current, chameleon, whatever, Mecha Chameleon or something like that, right? They want to play games with other people. And so for me to be like, no, what I want is like to put a disc in my disc drive and play a single player game, like, maybe a smaller studio can service my bullshit, but like, most gaming studios should probably make games for the people who are going to be buying them for the next 20 years.
Jacob, you buzzed in. What say you?
I can make the point that I was going to make at the end of the GTA pricing discussion because it's relevant here. I have a copy of Street Fighter 2 with a Babbage's sticker on it from the mid-90s, and it says $90. That's what I paid for that product, brand new. The reason that games were able to stay as cheap as they stayed, even with inflation, was that we had an expectation that audience was going to grow. Every new child coming into the world was coming into a world of video games, right? When we started playing as kids, our parents were not gamers, but we were. And the expectation was that they were going to pick up and play and buy consoles and packages the way that we did. But our replacements, the Gen Alphas and even some of the Gen Zs, are not doing that. They are playing Roblox. They are playing Minecraft. They are very happy with mobile titles. I was at a friend's house not too long ago. He had 2 teens. They had a big 4K television in front of them. They had a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox below that. Neither of them was on. The TV had YouTube on, and both of them were playing, kind of crappy looking games on their iPads, and they were very satisfied with that. And my kid as well, he's 9 years old. He and his friends mostly play Minecraft and Roblox. They have very little interest in that. He doesn't know what a Final Fantasy is, even though I'm credited on those titles. He couldn't care less. He thinks of Super Mario as a movie character. He has no interest in playing the games, even though he's got access to Switch and every game console and TV below it. So this is a real problem.
Hey, Jacob, those games weren't crappy looking. They're just not for you.
Exactly. You're correct.
Craig, what say you?
I think this is exactly the problem, is that we're older gamers. We grew up with gaming. We have a certain point of view about what they should be, how they should work. And for me, it's like analogous to car collecting for another generation. Like in the 50s, people loved cars. They modded them out. They all looked different. They knew how they worked. They grew up with them, and they had a love for how they would drive. And then another generation goes, it's a transport vehicle, and I want it to be aerodynamically perfect, and I'll just go places. Roblox just takes you places. It's casual. It's fun. Maybe some kids know how it works. Maybe they don't, but it's something to just do as a distraction. Where I think for us growing up, it was punk rock, right? It was new. It was a cultural identity, and it was about having like really cool, interesting, innovative technology. I feel that right now is happening in robotics and in AI. And I think those generations are going to grow up in the way that we did, but they're speaking a different language and they're thinking a different way.
Tony?
Man, that was deep, Craig. That was like your second, like, big brain, deep philosophical shit. I like that a lot. We gotta get some of those on a wall somewhere. The Roblox getting you from A to B and not being the SUV, the knock shitty RAV4. That is a deep statement. I agree with a lot of what those guys both said. What I would say is I don't think that we should throw the baby out with the bathwater, though. Like as I observe my own 10-year-old, and there are other 10-year-olds that are in our lives because I have a 10-year-old, so like, and I'm in video games, so we have at any given time 5 or 6 of these little gremlins running around playing games at our house. We have a bunch of Switches everywhere, and I have an AI game dev platform, so like kids are just constantly here playing video games, and they do popcorn games a lot more than when we grew up. Certainly, some function of that is just the number of games that are out, right? But like they'll play games for like 45 minutes to an hour at a time, then move to a new one, and they'll do that with the same group of games pretty consistently. But my daughter, again, 10 years old, just literally, this is really topical, last night, said, "Hey, Dad, I was watching a YouTube video. There's this game, Tomodachi Life. I really want to play it." I looked at it, made sure it wasn't some crazy shit. And then I had like a Switch that I've had ready for Hazel for when Hazel was ready to start playing real games. So I loaded that shit up, got Tomodachi Life going, and that's all that Hazel's been doing for the last like 2 days, is just running around with her Switch playing Tomodachi Life, right? And it's a very what I would call a traditional game. It's not Roblox. You're running. It's like a life sim style thing, right? And then I loaded her up with $100 and was like, "Hey, if you want to pick out some games with me, let me know." And we went through it, and she picked out some platformers. We got an RPG, not a Final Fantasy, but it's like there's a little kawaii. Looks like it's one of those like Kemco. They probably made it in like 3 hours, but it's got a bunch of princesses and shit in it. So all that to say, I think that the appeal for what I would call our generation of games is still there. I think Craig said it right in chat, or maybe it was Jacob said it right in chat. We no longer have monopoly on what gaming is and how money is spent in gaming, and so a lot of things that don't look like things that we love are going to exist, and that's okay. But I do think that there's still going to be a market for these kids. Clearly there was $200 worth of a market for traditional games in my house yesterday where there was zero before, right? And so I just think some of it's exposure, and as these game companies who have a lot of money are trying to continue to maintain an audience, I think that they're going to figure out, you haven't been on this show before as Craig and Jacob, but Koji and I like to go back and forth with each other about Sonic on Roblox all the time. I think it's genius. Koji thinks it's one of the dumbest things he's ever seen. But that's my example of I think that companies like that are going to make it.
Don't tell Joe because he did that game, by the way. Hey, Knox. So you're under 40. Should middle-aged gamers just fuck off and die, or what?
No, but I think decision makers are having some issues. I mean, I'm the very last year of millennials, and if you look at Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they are the first 2 successive generations that have worse economic outlooks than any generation prior to them ever. That is a massive shift in economic outlook, and that's led to a ton of things. I have a sister who's 21 years old. She's exactly 10 years younger than me, and a lot of her friends aren't very ambitious. They don't really care. They're not really planning for the future, and a lot of people will blow that away and say, "Hey, this is just a generation of kids who don't care." It's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is this is a generation of people who have realized that they're paying almost 40% more in housing than any generation prior to them. They are being squeezed harder by wages and income inflation than any generation harder than them. They have higher debts and lower security than any generation prior to them. So they want low impact, low commitment, low spend when it comes to the games and the entertainment that they have. It's part of the reason why things like Roblox and Minecraft are so entertaining for them, because it has an endless stream of content that they can reach. It's part of the reason why they're drawing towards mobile games that at least give them an opportunity to play for free. I think we did play in a generation where there are a lot better premium single player experiences. I think if you look even just within the last 10 years, most of the titles that are generational games that we'll talk about in 20 years have
I had to stop him, man. I had to stop him. Here's the thing. I don't think it's monetary at all. I think that as somebody who has a kid, and I'm sure Tony can back me up on this, the first thing you do, the first device you hand your kids when they're able to handle a device is here's my cell phone to distract you, or here's an iPad to distract you. So that's the thing that they're like, oh, I can use this for entertainment. Let me also use it for gaming. And the argument that they want cheaper things because they won't show up for the expensive stuff is crazy. You look at, for Craig and Jacob, everything that I talk about goes back to movies usually. But if you look at millennial or Gen Z content, you look at things like Backrooms or Five Nights at Freddy's or whatever, those things are smash successes. And it's because if you make things in their wheelhouse, they will come. And it wasn't because those tickets were discounted, Knock. It's because they wanted it. Right.
I just described two things that are peak millennial era. Five Nights at Freddy's and Backrooms are not Gen Z or Gen Alpha.
That's wrong. That's wrong. That's completely
it's not wrong.
No. That's wrong.
The Backrooms YouTube channel started a decade ago. My sister was 11 years old. She didn't see that when she was a child. That's what I grew up with when I was in my late teens, early 20s.
No. Dude, you're dead wrong. The demographic for this stuff, especially things like those properties, like they're the kids who grew up like playing the games, and they grew up with the content, right? Like it's you're saying that stuff came out when I was whatever a teen. I'm like, no. It's because this stuff has existed since their inception that they're showing up for these properties, right? And it's because we gave them a cell phone to begin with or an iPad that's where they're playing their games, right?
The argument that's being made right now is that 15 and 16-year-olds grew up with a property that is 15 and 16 years old. There's no chance. That was me. That was me at 14, 15 years old. Five Nights at Freddy was in the early 2010s, right? That's my generation. That's the early 30s. The point that I'm making is if you...
So you went to see that movie with your buddies. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I did actually. Yes, absolutely. Because we played it growing up in high school.
Absolutely not.
See, this is the disconnect that you talk about, though, Knock, right? Like, and you too, Koji, you are the old man screaming at the clouds because, again, the idea, like, I actually relate a little bit, and I'm older than you, I think, Koji, so fuck me. But the dynamic that Knock is talking about, I certainly buy into, right? Like, I remember going to Mortal Kombat and like rolling down the aisles with my friends and doing somersaults and shit because that's when I was 8 or 9, what I was playing. I don't know if I was still playing like Five Nights at Freddy's stuff when I was in high school, but I think that's the generational shift. And fuck you, Knock, you're not a millennial. But I think that like that is actually the dynamic that Knock's talking about, right? Is like and I think you're both kind of right, but I think that Knock is a little blinded by what he's talking about. Like the reason that you went to the Five Nights at Freddy movies, whether or not you were 8 or 15, is because during your formative years, during the time that you started playing things on your own for entertainment, you started playing that. What Koji's putting forth, and what I violently agree with, is we have shifted that age back dramatically from, I think the first time I was allowed to play stuff with other humans was EverQuest. I was probably in 7th grade or 8th grade. Hazel's in 5th grade right now. She's going to be 11 this year, so I was 14. Right, the first time I was able to play anything that like I got to choose, that like my parents didn't go to the store with me and say like, oh, I'm gonna look at the box, and right, and so with Hazel, I'm a shitty parent, but like she's been downloading apps and shit that like I go check up on, but for 4 years since she was 6 years old, right? And so I just think that horizon that you're talking about has shifted by I don't know if it's quite a full generation, but half a generation, right? 8 years, 9 years, and I think it's going to continue too, because I think these kids are going to keep getting this shit earlier and earlier, and their likelihood, and this is where I go back to you, Koji, their likelihood to want free content because that's the content that's on the devices we're giving them is only going to increase. Like that's what I'm saying. I think you're both kind of right, but my
kid was 5 years old and she's like, I want to go to the Minecraft. I mean, she was 5 years old when Minecraft came out. She's like, I want to go to the Minecraft movie, right? She wasn't 14. You know what I'm saying?
But that's
the key of what's being said here. And look, I
agree with you. That's what I'm saying.
You can agree with this stat, or you can be wrong. But Gen Alpha plays more video games than any generation prior to them. The difference is they're playing social games for a very simple reason, and there are fewer areas and fewer things like organized sports and third spaces that allow them to go there and spend time with their friends. They're using Roblox and Minecraft as a virtual third place. It's not just a game. It is hanging out with your friends. It's a larger experience. My generation, we did that on a Friday or Saturday night for sure when nobody wanted to go to the movie theater, but it wasn't the only outlet we had for spending time with one another. It is a known, like we're seeing this now with research and studies that are coming out. Gen Alpha is playing video games at a higher rate than any generation prior to them, but what they're trying to get out of it is different. They're not looking for solo player experiences. They're looking for third spaces.
Knock, I agree. I said that in my answer as well, that they wanted social environments to play games in, but I would push back on they don't have those spaces. They just prefer to do it virtually because they're afraid of seeing people in person. They're just afraid of one another, right? The places exist. They're just like, oh, my social anxiety won't allow me to like tell you that we're friends face to face.
Listen, man, they exist, but at the same time, okay, look, I live in Toronto. I've been lucky enough to make a decent amount of money in my life. Every time I walk outside it cost me $100. The spaces exist. It's just so prohibitively expensive versus what we had to deal with comparatively to like income and things like that, that most people are choosing to just stay home and play the games because it costs you $15 and your parents' internet bill. That's it. That's all it costs. And so you can hang out with your friends here, or you can go and ask your mom for $35 to go see a movie.
When I was a kid, we would just go to a parking lot and all hang out with each other because we didn't have any money. It's not about what it costs. It's because these people are socially inept.
You heard it here first. Koji's like, parking lot, drugs, degenerate behavior. That's what.
Well, I didn't say drugs, but there was definitely drugs involved.
Okay, Craig, I'm going to give you the final word.
Wow. Awesome. Love this conversation about the social implications of our future and how we're raising kids to be shut-ins in a socialist economy without money and a future. But fortunately, AI is coming and it will save us on this because it's going to empower everybody and get us all back out there and tell us what to do. So I think we've actually just arrived at the pinnacle of human society because we are now ready to fully ascend and be instructed by machines.
All right. Well, we have come up on time. So, Tony, who is your MVP?
Oh, it's Craig by leaps and bounds.
Knock MVP.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Craig, but I will say Jacob with a very close runner-up. Tony, Koji, I love you too, but wasn't it, boys? Wasn't it today?
Craig, who's your MVP?
I like Knock and Tony, but I'm going to give it to Knock.
Jacob, MVP.
Craig.
Awesome. And Koji?
Yeah, I want to say Craig and Jacob, amazing additions to the panel, and I hope you guys come back. My MVP is Jacob. I thought that you made some really amazing points.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear more.
Well, I'll both give you a second, Craig, if you want to promote anything that you have coming up.
So just we're doing a bunch of stuff with different partners right now, but nothing that we can talk about publicly.
And Jacob, what's going on? What's going on in your world?
Oh, I don't have anything to promote. I'm just going to point out that this last topic on aging out is an issue I brought up several times with regard to Square Enix too, because if you look at the average age of Final Fantasy players, which is now in its mid 40s, they're not successfully doing it. And I've taken a lot of flack online for saying that they should be bringing that brand to Roblox and to a lot more places, TikTok, etc. So these are just hitting points that I've been on for years at this point.
Yeah, Square needs to make a show just like Disney. We need Cloud and his amazing friends so that we can get kids in early.
I think there should be a, Game
You're
of
so
Thrones
fucking
style
cynical.
Final Fantasy.
I would fucking watch that, Koji.
I'm not cynical.
Yeah,
I'm not cynical.
Watch that shit.
My daughter watches Spidey and his amazing friends and watches Iron Friends and all that nonsense.
If I could watch Garrett with like a little fucking like pistol attached to his arm before it's a Gatling gun, fucking all day. Barrett. Sorry.
Actually, Jacob, I should before we go, and Craig, I should have put this on the agenda so we can touch on it real quick. Disney announced at D23 a Kingdom Hearts TV show.
It's great.
Being made with the creator of Kingdom Hearts. I blank on his name, but maybe Jacob. What's your thought on that? It's taken. They declared Kingdom Hearts as a gaming franchise. What's your quick thought on that? And sort of Square partnering with Disney in this way?
I think that's great. I think it's what they've been needing for a long time. I would much rather it be Final Fantasy than just Kingdom Hearts, though I understand why they did that. But I've been pushing online for Final Fantasy branded lands in Disney or Universal. I've been pushing for very high profile television shows. I want a Final Fantasy Game of Thrones style big budget live action. I think that that's the way in which you kind of renew interest in that intellectual property.
Craig, did you work on Kingdom Hearts?
I was there at the kickoff meeting. I was the internal champion that was pushing really hard for it, and it was many years ago. And then I left before that project really got rolling. So I didn't have anything to do with the project that came after. But I was really happy to see it happen, and it was a typical thing at Disney at the time where we were in the kickoff meeting to do the business deal, and one side of the room was Square, the other side of the room was Disney. And the way it started was Square kind of said, well, we're Square, we don't really know why we need Disney as a license. And Disney was like, well, we're Disney. We don't really know why we need Square to help us bring it to life. And then we had to kind of like, wait. Let's talk about how these two things make something greater. And that definitely happened. As we're seeing, it's now finally maturing to the point where it can be kind of a full cross-media platform property. And I get really excited not only about that, but the other announcement, how now Fortnite is going to be able to be unlocked by going to Star Wars Land. And they're starting to finally integrate these different pieces, not just with media. I mean, that's kind of the low-hanging fruit, right? Like, I made a world, I have characters, let's make a movie, let's make a TV show. But when you actually start to think about the world as a playground and you're starting to connect the dots to be able to say, hey, you're in a fan ecosystem, let's give you other rewards for doing other things in this universe. It's the Disney thing that has been there since we were there, that is still there, that they're still just kind of circling around. And I hope, it's like the metaverse. Maybe this time, baby, AR, it's really going to happen. But
it's also vengeance for Graham Hopper, right? Who much maligned Graham Hopper, who is a friend, but who championed Kingdom Hearts, and without whom there would be no Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
So he has left a lasting legacy on games.
I love how you can make $1 billion for a company and get fired.
That's how it works, baby. That's how it works at the Mouse. The seats are rented, as they say. Well, this has been an amazing episode. Thank you guys for coming on. Really appreciate you all joining Tony, Knott, Craig, Jacob, Koji, and Oliver, who had to split. Thank you. This is Chris Heatherly, and to our friend Sam, who's in Bali. Don't get arrested. Hope to see you soon. Thanks, guys. Take care.